I will have to do this next video actually in two parts. This will be part one. John is making himself some coffee, and you see I have some clothes hanging there. We did the laundry again today, and Dolly is eating. And Darcy, the cat, hi Darcy, she's watching John make coffee. John's her favorite human. Today I want to talk a little bit about why we live in a van, because sometimes people have ideas about why someone might live in an automobile or why they live the lifestyle that they live. And so maybe I can clear up a few things. I'm not going to go into a lot of great detail, but I am going to touch on some important points that lead to our life in a van. Shortly after we were married, John and I both lost our jobs, and the employment that we were able to find following losing our jobs, we were unable to sustain our house payments and the home that we had. In fact, we were pretty poor and not equipped for the life that we were faced with, having both lost our jobs. And so, September of 2014, we pulled out of our driveway for the last time in a little 2013 Elantra, loaded down with the belongings that we decided to keep and a few animals. Since that time, we've been pretty much on the road in various different vehicles. We've learned that the worst vehicle to have if you are homeless is a motorhome, because if they break down, there's no one to repair them. Most people that are in the situation that we found ourselves in can't afford really nice motorhomes with warranties. They're riding around in older vehicles or living in their cars. We've been in a couple other vans, older vans, and a couple older motorhomes, and now we're back to living in a van because it's the easiest way to get around and to park and things. But we're finding now that we want to buy a small trailer to tow because of our age and our health issues. It's just getting really difficult to live in a van. So we've started saving for a small trailer. Now, down to the why of us living this way. John, let's start with John. He did 31 years in prison. And 2 years before that, he was incarcerated because he was not old enough to go to prison. He got incarcerated at the age of 16 and sent to prison at the age of 18 and got out of prison. He went in 1980 and got out in 2011. And he was supposed to be in until 2028, but God worked in his behalf so that he was able to get out earlier. That's a testimony in itself. But that's why I got fired from my job. I had been working for a Hollywood attorney with a home in Haley, Idaho as their housekeeper. Their house was over 17,000 square feet, and I had been their housekeeper for about 13 and a half years. And when I married John, I didn't ask anyone's approval or tell them ahead of time, but when they found out and did a background check on him, they fired me following the holidays of 2013. I was fired January of 2014. So, as a result of the firings and the inadequate work and various things, we lost our home and we ended up on the road. And that was quite a learning curve, but we're kind of expert at it now. And so, anyways, I do want to say that while John was in prison, part of his testimony is that Pastor Joe Bush from Baker City, Oregon, used to go up to the maximum security prison in Salem, Oregon, and talk with the prisoners there about Jesus. And one time when he was there, God told him to go see that there was a prisoner he needed to see in segregation. So as he was going to segregation, he heard a loud scream, and it was coming from cell number 1, and that's where John was. And Pastor Joe told the workers there, he goes, "That's the prisoner I need to see." And they said, "Well, you've got to go through a lot to see him. And so over the next 3 weeks, Pastor Joe went through the procedures he needed to do to go see John. He had never met John, didn't know who John was, but the demons inside of John knew who Pastor Joe was. And so that's why he screamed so loud when Pastor Joe came, because the demons knew Pastor Joe was coming. So Pastor Joe started seeing John in his segregation cell for probably the first 3 to 6 months. When Pastor Joe would come to see him, John would know that he was coming and would save up spit and snot to spit in his face, in Pastor Joe's face. So when Pastor Joe would arrive, John would go up to the bars and spit snot in his face, and Pastor Joe would pull out his hanky, wipe off his face, and ask John, "Why are you doing this? Why are you acting this way? Don't you know you're a mighty man of God?"